and it was for morphine. She was like on straight liquid morphine with a pain pump, and eventually she was coming in without it, and she would be like sweating bullets and stuff, and she's like, I'm going to the gym after that. And it was like a real commitment, that, and it was clear that she was, had been on it for, I think she said like 11 or 12 years or something, like a long time. And over the course of this year, this lady dropped about 160 pounds or something, and like a literal transformation. Wow. And she got completely off the opioids. And by the end of the year, like, she was coming in smiling. The back pain that she had subsided from like a 10 to like a 3 because of the weight that she lost and the exercise that she, and also, when you're in pain, depression doesn't help either.
Right. Yeah.
And so anyway, I just wanted to share that story, and there's a bunch of other ones.
No, thank you. It's
very been able to do it. So
very encouraging. Yeah. And so you said she was on the pain pump in the first place just because of the weight was making her body not like she was in pain because of that, or was there another underlying reason? Do you know? I don't remember the specific injury. I think it was a car accident, but she had some point where she'd had an injury to her back. And this happened with my mom too. Like, I see a lot of this in the medical community, unfortunately, is where a back injury happens and they just allow that to be your excuse to come back in. There's no conversation about, they do whatever, a little rehab or whatever, but there's nobody saying, you need to specifically target this area of your back or your core or whatever, or whatever part of your body so that you can redevelop the muscles there. That conversation's not happening. They're like, oh, you got pain here on a scale of 1 to 10. What is it? Oh, right. Okay. Well, this opioids for that. Right. Yeah.
And so they just, like most people, they weren't having that conversation with her. So they're like, oh, your back's just broken, and so we'll just give you something for it. And then she decided on her own to start strengthening her back and her core and working out and doing the, whatever small things she could do to step in that direction. And losing weight was one of those things, and it started to get better. It's like whenever somebody calls me, like, especially for cancer or Alzheimer's disease or something that's really severe and kind of on the rails, headed in a certain direction, one of the first things I tell them is, listen, you need the hospitals for certain things. You need them to monitor, you need them to do tests and see if something's getting worse or better. So you need that aspect of what they do. But what you don't go there for is hope, because they're not going to be like, hey, you're here. Okay, let's get this done. We're going to get you through this. You can beat this. You can do this. Not everybody does, but it's possible. And there's no one's having those conversations. That it's like all of a sudden this somber mood, and it's like dun 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 dun. Every time you walk into the cancer play, it's like this low vibration, and that's not where you go to get hope. So whatever it is they say that's anti-hope or not positive or whatever, you just got to put that stuff aside, and you're there for their testing and monitoring and that side of things.
And so have you managed to treat people who just don't want to do chemo? You can help them with RSO and.
Yeah. Yes. And also there's some people who have chosen to do a combination of radiation and cannabis oil, which has also been effective for some people. I think it depends on the person's mindset, their physical body, and obviously the conversation with their doctor. Like my brother recently just got over stage 3 prostate cancer with a combination of radiation and cannabis oil. Wow. And then a lady in Seattle or somewhere Pacific Northwest that was just a friend of a friend who she just messaged me recently and said, for the past year, I want you to know I've been cancer free and I'm not doing any radiation or anything. It's just the cannabis oil. Wow. And the first lady I ever worked with, which was probably, maybe 7 or 8 years ago now, her name is Donna Espis. She's the one that I was like, oh my, like it absolutely just blew my mind completely, because she was deep stage 4 cancer when I met her. And she was actually a friend of mine's neighbor, in the apartment complex that they lived in together. And all of a sudden, my friend didn't see her out walking her dog anymore. So she asked her husband where she was, and she said, oh, Donna's very sick. She's probably not going to make it. We have already done her living memorial at the church. And she had been given literally weeks, like 2 to 3 weeks left. And she started taking cannabis oil. And within about, this is her story, she said somewhere 7 to 10 days, like day 8, 9, 10, something like that, she got up and looked at herself in the mirror, and all of a sudden her color was back and she felt alive. And she literally said to herself, Donna, you're not going to die. Like you're coming back. And she on cannabis only, because she tried immunotherapy, like 1 or 2 treatments, and she tried radiation, 1 or 2 treatments, and she said, I can literally feel this as poison in my body, and my body's rejecting it, and it won't, like, if this is what I have to do to beat this disease, I'll let the disease take me, because I can already feel it's going to make me miserable. So she went straight to cannabis oil, and it wasn't like a lot of people think you got to work your way up to 1 gram a day. In some cases you do, if it's extreme, but she beat it with basically a rice-sized grain every 4 hours.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. That's hardcore. Like the high THC straight high, or was it a 1-to-1 or?
Yes. She started with the high THC stuff. And then, once everything was gone, she switched to the 1-to-1 ratio just once a day, like a maintenance dose in the morning or the night. And that's what she's been doing the last couple of years, is just a maintenance dose. And then I think maybe 8 months ago, or it's like every quarter, I think she gets tested now. And about 8 months ago or something, they did find like a small tumor had come back. So I suggested she switch to the high THC again. Yeah. And for some reason, now she's once again been cleared cancer-free.
Oh, good.
And her doctors, are like, oh yeah, well, yeah, I guess, we can't explain it, but, we're also not going to look any further into it either.
Right. Of course not. They can't profit off of it. So,
Right. Yeah. God forbid you be an actual scientist for a minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, and then, worse than that, I even heard this lady, Donna, and I were working with this guy who was like 40 years old and who had the same, cancer that she had gotten over, metastatic melanoma, and which had spread to his lungs and liver, just like her. And like she started with a little skin tag on her ankle, and then it went away, and then like a year later it came back in her lungs and liver and all that type of stuff.
Wow. And
same with this kid. Well, it turned out the kid, I say kid, he's a friend of mine's younger brother. So he was a man, obviously, at 40 years old. But basically, the same doctor that initially treated my friend Donna was assigned to this guy. Dr. Cato is his name. And I'll never forget his name. because he straight up lied to this kid and said, because the family was arguing the dad was heavily against cannabis. The mom and sister were for it, and the brother was completely confused. And so he didn't take it consistently. And then they all went to the doctor and said, okay, well, we're going to talk to the doctor and settle this. When they came back, they asked to have a meeting with me and Donna, and they said, well, the doctor said he's never seen anybody, he's treated a lot of cancer patients and he's never seen anybody recover, and blah. And somebody mentioned the name Dr. Cato, and Donna said, that was my initial cancer doctor.
Crazy.
And he has all my results. I emailed, she said, I quit with him because I didn't like him, and I moved to this other doctor in the same, Mayo Clinic doctors, but I just didn't feel like he was the one for me. But he was involved in my case the whole time because he was like a know-it-all, always wanted to tell me what to do, and I didn't like what he was telling me to do, so I went to this other doctor. But I would always constantly copy him for his information, so he knew. So he knew my tumor shrunk. He knew I was only taking cannabis oil, and she's like, I want to go with you to your next appointment. And they didn't want to rock the boat or whatever. But that's what's going on at the Mayo Clinic. Is they're literally lying to patients about it. So it's intentional ignorance on the part of big pharma, but these people think they're doing the right thing, and they think that they really are, what they're being taught is cutting edge type stuff. So it's hard when they spent $180,000 or $250,000 or however much that is on their college to tell them that 80% of it isn't real.
Right. Honestly, God made everything we need, really, literally, truly. And a lot of our problems in the first place are because we're surrounded by synthetics and we're using synthetic things. And that's one of our biggest problems. But the way to treat it isn't more synthetic things. And, just
no official cannabis degree in cannabis medicine out there. So I obviously don't have that, and I'm not a doctor, but I do have experience in helping people figure out, method of ingestion, how much to ingest, what time to ingest, like that, that type of thing. There's two important things about ingesting cannabis oil that people should know, and you already know about the edibles and what happens. So if you swallow the RSO like into your stomach, it can take an hour to 2 hours or whatever to pass completely through your digestive system, and then you don't know how high you're going to get, or it's very unpredictable, like you said. With opioid reduction, I think the best way to do it is to especially if she's craving like the opioid rush or whatever, then you can take a napkin or a paper towel or a rag or whatever and dry part of your gums, your cheek and gum or the roof of your mouth, and you want to do it in a different spot every time so that you don't create a callus there.
Okay.
But you dry that area and then put a drop of the RSO on that area, and it'll suck right into the, into the dry pores and go right through into the bloodstream and right through the blood-brain barrier. And within about 8 to 12 minutes, she'll get a narcotic-like rush from it. So that helps with the withdrawals. Yeah. And also, the more consistent that she can be with taking it, if she can take it every 8 hours or every 6 hours or whatever, she can, it will start to help regulate her system. As you probably know, our CB receptors, our endocannabinoid system is responsible for 80 to 85% of disease response and control and pain regulation and all those types of things. And so as she starts to transition off these opioids, she'll start to see a healing process in her body that can't be present with the opioids, because the opioids retard the healing process.
Yeah.
Cannabis expedites the healing process while killing the pain at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a double whammy in the right direction, if she can stay consistent with it.
Okay.
So,
do you think she should start the RSO now, just so she's...
What was that?
Do you think she should just start the RSO now?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so, yeah. And if smoking helps her, that's great too. But I think she'll, if she tries the RSO in the evening, in particular, the high THC stuff, that may help her sleep as well. I would try the different forms. They try smoking through the water pipe, try doing a rice-sized grain, just put it on a toothpick and then just put it between the cheek and gum and let it absorb. Yeah. With her being new to the experience, I wouldn't recommend her swallowing it.
No, yeah.
However it is she can get relief, whatever works for her. Everybody's endocannabinoid system is slightly different. So, yeah. There's adjustments you'll have to make in the amount of, the amount that she takes each time.
Yeah.
So she'll have to adjust up or down. But what really helps is when you're doing it through your cheek and gum lining, it gives you a lot better idea a lot more quickly, so you can make the adjustments.
Yeah.
And she's not freaking out, and it shouldn't give her any bad experiences, when people eat too many edibles or whatever.
Yeah.
I learned this from a firefighter who I helped get off of him with cannabis oil. He explained to me that one of the worst things that opioids do is, when you swallow a piece of food, your throat is connected all the way down, to the exit.
Right.
Like that, it's a continuous tube, obviously. So when you swallow a piece of food, what happens is there's a ringing action that your body starts, like a domino effect. It starts in your throat and it works down, and it literally is like a domino thing where one muscle will ring after another one does, just like wringing out a dish rag. Your digestive tract does the same thing to push the food through so that it comes out the other end. And it starts systematically, at the top and works its way to the bottom. Well, opioids take away the ringing effect. Eventually your body doesn't ring the food through anymore, which is a lot of the reasons why a lot of these digestive tract problems start from there. And they also harden the lining of your stomach and your intestines and those types of things. So it's no matter how much water you drink, no matter what you do, all that, the biome in your gut and the flora and fauna and all that stuff that helps you absorb water is the opioids kill that stuff off. So you don't, even if you drink water, that's why people are always dehydrated when they're on opioids, even if they're drinking water, because it's tough to get their body to absorb it while they're on the opioids. So, and obviously that's also contributes to kidney and, your filter organ type stuff having issues as well. So those are all things that will come back if you supplement with the cannabis oil, because your endocannabinoid system will regulate them back and, will regulate your body into homeostasis.
Right.
So that's the goal, is to get her body back in homeostasis so it's regulating itself. And
it's actually regenerating the missing stuff. That's amazing. Yeah.
And I know that it worked. Like, I literally wouldn't do this if I'm not about wasting my time. I'm not about feeding my ego on this stuff, or, you know, I want to help people. I want to spread the information because you know, I feel like as a human race, this is how we have a shot of getting ourselves back to nature, you know, back to your brand. So there's the whole reasoning behind your brand. And so that's why I do this. I believe in it. And I believe in it because it's continually reinforced to me when I work with people, and, you know, they're patient enough to be able to stick through it and their method and form of ingestion. The more you can take, especially in her type of a situation, obviously, to supplement that pain pump, the more she needs to take. So, and if you need to call me at any point, anytime, please do. If I can't answer right away, I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Well, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate your time and that you just do this out of the goodness of your heart. It's very, very helpful and needed.